Hello everybody, the Great Dino Ranger here again, back with another review, and an exciting one at that. At the point of recording this, which is June 1st, this is the official release date for all of the new Jurassic World Rebirth figures from Mattel, and it is super exciting. And I managed to get one of these figures today. These are at least just one of the ones I found. My stores were a little weird with not having everything in stock, but I'm pretty sure as the days go on, as the weeks go on, it'll be pretty easy to find these in stores. But anyways, we have our first one right here. Also, happy Jurassic June, everyone. Obviously the big month for Jurassic, even though Rebirth comes out next month, but that's actually really exciting to say, actually. But anyways, here is our first Jurassic World Rebirth score, and our first Jurassic World Rebirth review on my channel. So really exciting. And we have the massive Jurassic World Rebirth Titanosaurus. So here we go, another sauropod. It honestly feels like I just got the Diplodocus like a little bit ago, even though that one was a Christmas item, but obviously I had to review that one a bit later because I had so many things to review altogether. But other than that, really exciting that I have another sauropod to review, and it's really cool because this is another sauropod that I didn't get for Christmas. This is something that I bought myself. The only other time I did that was with the Apatosaurus, but I didn't obviously review that one. That was during the time in 2021 where I wasn't very well. I didn't do so well at, keeping up with videos and all that. So, but this is the second sauropod I've actually bought myself. All the other ones previously I've gotten for Christmas. So this is really cool. Brand new sauropod species for the franchise, and based on the trailer, this thing is massive, a huge sauropod. I think even being bigger than the Dreadnoughtus. So that might be the case with the toy itself. The toy seems pretty massive, and I can't wait to get a closer look at it. Obviously, I'm doing this intro here at night. I don't want to wait till the daytime to open this thing. I need to open it now, so I'm doing the little intro now, and then tomorrow during the daytime, I will full on review it. So anyways, here's a good look at the packaging here. Really nice package colors. It really stands out with the red and the black and the gray. Pretty much the same colors as the boat that's seen in Rebirth, the main one that's fighting off the Mosasaurus and the Spinosauruses. So that's really cool. It's pretty eye-catching. You got gorgeous artwork here with the Titanosaurus. Obviously, we got the kind of the more what do you call them, stylized renders. So these ones are not CGI. They're kind of more I don't want to say cartoony. That's not really the word I'm looking for, but they're definitely not based off they're not full-on CGI renders. So but still, they look really cool though. I really like the design of the Titanosaurus. I like the interesting fins and the big bulbous spot here at the top of the head. It's kind of reminiscent to what you see in modern sauropod paleo art, just kind of adding some more extra flesh on top of the dinosaur bones. Here you got a little measurement of how long this animal is and it compared to a kid. Jurassic World Rebirth logo looking awesome. Titanosaurus, obviously it's unassembled. You got a really nice render of the Spinosaurus. Really cool, really glad to see this animal back. Mattel logo, some Vax app stuff, and a good size measurement. I think it's just the size of the toy, and it's part of the land portion because they're hunting land, sea, and air animals. But really cool. At the top, just Rebirth, Titanosaurus. And it's a really big box too, really thick one too. On this side, Rebirth, you got some more size measurements, and it's posable. Pretty standard for these giant sauropods. On the other side, basically the same thing. And here, look at this on the other side here. Let's see if we can stand this up real quick. All right, so here is the box up because it's kind of matching this render. I really love the full body shot of the render right here. It looks awesome. A really interesting and very unique sauropod for the franchise. Really cool. You got some kind of other stuff right here. A nice visual representation of the animal, some Vax app information, the title, and some of the same measurements, but Basically the same thing, and you got some land, sea, and air stuff back there. But yeah, so let's go ahead, and I think there's like one more thing actually. Yeah, so here on this side, it kind of gives you a rundown. Let's see if I can take this down real quick. All right, there we go. So here, a lot of boring stuff, but it shows you that it's a one-time assembly, and it comes with a lot of pieces, maybe similar to the Diplodocus, but this thing is huge. That's what I've been seeing on reviews, so I can't wait to open this thing. But here's all the pieces it comes with, and then we'll just, yeah, I'm gonna assemble it off camera, and then obviously I'll get back to daytime and review it. So that's pretty much it for the packaging. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at this giant animal. Alrighty, so here is the Titanosaurus put together, all the pieces put together, and holy moly, this thing is flipping massive. This thing is huge. The camera does not do it justice at all. The camera doesn't even seem to really show it. You have to literally see this thing in person. This thing is huge. This is definitely, you know, Mattel's biggest sauropod that they've ever done. I mean, I think it's big in terms of height, because I've compared it with all the other sauropods, and it's definitely the tallest. It might be the longest. I don't know. I think the Dreadnoughtus and the Diplodocus might be the same length, maybe, or maybe just a tad bit longer. I'm not entirely sure, but I don't know. The Titanosaurus's tail seems very, very long, but I do know it's definitely bigger in terms of height. I think bigger in terms of like the thickness of the neck. Just makes it seem more of like a beefier animal. But for all of you collectors who collect all of the Mattel Jurassic World figures, the Titanosaurus is definitely a must-have. I highly, highly recommend getting this Titanosaurus figure because it is just amazing. It is an awesome, awesome figure. And like I said, the tail's just super long. This thing is so huge. And obviously it's a new species from the Jurassic franchise because it's obviously in Rebirth, and it's a new sauropod for the franchise, and it's just such a great one too. And everything about this is great. The size is obviously a plus. I think it's probably the biggest highlight of this figure is just the huge size of it. The sculpt is magnificent. The paint job is really good too. Maybe a bit basic here and there, but I think it pretty much captures the overall look of the Titanosaurus in Rebirth. And also, probably one of the coolest parts is actually the fins that this sauropod has, which makes it a very unique sauropod. It makes it stand out from all the others seen in the franchise, because none of these seem to have it. I don't even think this is even possible in real life, as far as we know. The only thing that actually is pretty like scientific, I guess, is the big, large bump or nose bulbous thing here at the front of the head, you know, kind of like a beluga whale, which is kind of funny I say that because the Distortus Rex has something similar. But you got this big part right here, which I think is really cool, because sometimes when some artists, when they draw dinosaurs in a scientific way, they add some extra tissue on top of the skull, especially where the nose is, kind of giving it more of like this rounded, more pronounced like skin or flesh on top of the animal, which is kind of realistic a little bit, because, you know, you look at animal skeletons, you know, you're not just gonna follow exactly where the bones align, because you got to add muscle, you got to add fat, you got to add just a lot of just meat to it. So sometimes they're not going to look extremely skinny, kind of like what you see in deer, but they might be really chunky and just beefy like that of a hippo or something like that. So adding some extra tissue that can't be fossilized is really cool, and that's what I get, that's the vibe I get on this Titanosaurus, and I think it's just really cool. And these little fin structures here, I honestly think the Titanosaurus definitely went through a little bit of a redesign between both trailers. The first trailer, the Titanosaurus seemed to be a little bit more upright, kind of like Brachiosaurus. But in the second trailer, it seemed a lot more like a true Titanosaur, because the neck was a lot more beefier and it was more of a diagonal type of position. So there's obviously that, and then you got these little fins that I think seemed a lot more pronounced and visible in the first trailer. In the second trailer, they didn't seem to be there at all. So I don't know if these fin-like structures have the ability to close, and then for display purposes, they're able to like open back up. So I don't know if that's what's going on, or if the creators decided just to limit or double down on the pronounce of the fins, for lack of a better term, I guess. But back to the fins, one of the cool things I really like is that it's made out of a softer, flexier, like plastic material. Maybe not necessarily rubber, but it's really flimsy, really soft, so you can like move it all over, but it almost feels like real skin. I think that's really cool for the fin purposes. I actually thought this was gonna be like super like hard plastic when I first saw the images of it, but no, it's actually pretty soft. Even the one here at the bottom is really soft as well, so I really like that a lot. And the colors are really nice too. They're also actually made of a translucent material, so if you hold it up against the sun or a bright surface, you can see the other half of like my hand on the other side. That's really cool. Kind of realistic, because this is obviously all skin, except for these little ridges. These ones might actually be like full-on like harder pieces of the vertebrae, but obviously it doesn't really seem like that. They seem like just like full-on fins. So I guess maybe Mattel could have had maybe painted those in, I don't know, but I think it looks good regardless. And I like the detail they had in the little skin right there too. Even here at the bottom, it's the same thing. Interestingly, the fin is on the tail, when if you look at how it is in the film, it's supposed to be like starting from the back side and then it leads onto the tail. But if you think about it, if they actually did that, they might not even be able to add an articulated joint right here at the base of the tail. So I guess it's okay. It doesn't bother me at all, but I'm just pointing that out. Which, yes, that makes it not entirely full-on accurate, but I think this depicts the Titanosaurus very well. We'll take a brief look at the sculpt here. Sauropods are super difficult to review sometimes. Inside the mouth, which obviously the jaw is articulated. And it's kind of like has a bunch of like ratchets in it, so it like stops at different areas. Pretty good for stop motion, but that's pretty cool. And then the inside of the mouth is really good. The teeth nicely sculpted, and the inside of the mouth pretty good. Also the paint inside the mouth too is pretty nice as well. Inside like this fleshy color, and then the yellowness for the teeth, and you got a little bit of gum flaps back there. And then the big round spot is actually pretty smooth, which is pretty cool. I guess that's kind of like how it would be in real life, just pretty smooth, whereas the rest of the skin is pretty rough. And you can see little nostrils right there. That's pretty cool. Now another thing too, the Titanosaurus in the movie definitely has a lot more of a bigger bump right here in the nose, like really big, like pretty like, I guess almost very similar to the Distortus Rex, but it definitely should have been maybe a bit bigger if it was going to be full-on accurate. But it's big enough where it gets the job done. But just kind of observing, the head right here looks pretty nice. The nice little sculpted detail around the eye and the skin, the line texture. You guys can see all throughout the neck, you got some really nice skin texture, which doesn't even seem to be full-on scales, but very like rough textured skin, very similar to what you see like that on an elephant, just like a rough texture, and it looks really nice. And you got some nice muscle definition throughout the neck, which pops depending on the light source and the shading and all that. You can see the little ear hole right there, which looks really cool. And the neck, the base of the neck right here is just really thick, and I think it just adds to the mass of this animal. You can see more of the cool skin texture, very similar to that of an elephant. You can see how just the wrinkleness of it, you can see how the skin would just move with each step of the animal as it walks. So it kind of like it jiggles a little bit as it moves, just kind of like what you see when you see an elephant walk. The skin just kind of like just moves around, following each footstep, and just the movement of the animal as it pulls and stretches the skin. That's really cool. Really cool observation right there. But yeah, just really cool detail overall. Same with the body, just a nice texture all over the body. I really like all these like lines sculpted in, not really veins, but just kind of like stretches and folds of skin just hanging right there. Really cool, the creases and all that. Same with the arms, just kind of adds a lot of life and movement to this figure, kind of depicting it more like a real animal. I think that's really cool. A lot of great detail in the skin texture on the arms. You can see some muscles kind of poking out right there. And the feet, nicely done as well. And the claws aren't really painted, but it's not really a big deal, in my opinion anyway. You can see some more lines right there. See more of that detail. And that pretty much continues all the way to the underside. The underside is more of like this full-on like lined texture sculpt for the underside. But yeah, I really like what they did here. You can see some more of the muscles or the whatever, just kind of poking through the skin right there. And it really brings it out, the sculpt, depending on the shading. It's really cool. And then you can see here on the hind leg, a lot of nice skin texture, some cool little lines going on in the skin, some nice sculpt in the legs and the foot. So really great detail. Same with the back. And then here at the tail, you got some really nice skin folds right here, or stretch marks right here in the tail. Really nice detail right there. Awesome job, Mattel. And then obviously the tail just goes all the way to the tip. And then really nice texturing. It's pretty smooth on the tail, but it gets the job done. And then the same thing is just gonna be the same on the other side. So paint job wise, the paint is great. It matches the Titanosaurus pretty nicely from what we see in the film, based on the trailers anyway. Not entirely accurate. Like I said, the paint job is a little bit, not really lacking, but it's very basic. So it's not entirely complex like the striping on the Dreadnoughtus, you know. But it gets the job done. I feel like maybe this white color should have been up around the neck a little bit, because I think there's definitely some more white going down the neck, just based on the trailer. But I do like how it stripes here at the neck. So the underside would just be more of a white color. Sadly, it just stops right there at the chest. It doesn't even go all the way down. But the darker color here just kind of makes up for that, so it's not entirely the worst thing. And you got like this dark brown color. It's more of a dark brown in person than black, because that's kind of like what it's showing on camera. And that goes up all the way to about the head. I love how the head is just white. It just makes it pop. And you can see the underjaw is like this dark color, and you got a little bit of that kind of faded into the top of the upper jaw a little bit. And you got a little bit of black around the eye, and a nice yellow eye with a black pupil, which makes it pop. And then obviously these little fins are like an orange translucent color, so that pops as well. Contrasts very well with the colors. And then majority of the body is like this light, very light brown color. And then at the end of the super long tail, it's again in this dark brown black color with the white stripes, and the white stripes look great. I love what Mattel did with the white stripes. I love that a lot. I think it's really well done. And just super long too. I have to figure out where I'm gonna put this thing, but I can figure it out. It's a movie dinosaur. I have to have it in my collection anyway, so. But yeah, so let's go ahead and take a closer look, or at least let's try to figure out how I'm gonna do the articulation. All right, so I'm gonna try to do the articulation here as best as I can. So obviously I have to come on screen a little bit. So let's see if we can figure this out. So like we said before, you know, the jaw can open and close, and hopefully you guys can see this okay. This part of the neck can rotate. Again, hopefully you guys are seeing this okay. And then this part of the neck right here can basically move down about that far. You guys can kind of see that a little bit. So not too bad, actually. I really like the way it looks like that. All right, let's see what else we can do here. And then it can go up about, let's see. These joints are super tight sometimes, so it's hard to move. Whoa. That's pretty interesting. So the head can go really high, which looks really weird on the body. That actually does not look very good when I do it like that, so I gotta fix that. But there, as you can see, you got an articulation joint there, just forward and backwards. And interestingly, it can also rotate only that far, which is pretty cool. So it doesn't really go all the way around. Interesting. And then the limbs here, they're all going to be the same. Forward and back, roughly about that far. And then the hind legs as well. Forward. I mean, they can go pretty further, but obviously this is in the way. Then it can go back about that far. So not a whole lot. Hopefully you guys can see that. I don't know. If you guys can't see it, I apologize. I'm sure you guys can find better reviews. Now the base of the tail right here is really cool. It can move up about that far. Are you guys getting that? I think so, yeah. And then you can go down pretty far as well. Doesn't seem very, I guess, floppy like the Diplodocus, because the tip of the tail keeps on falling off on mine. Let's see, so yeah, I can go up and down. It can obviously go left and right, very smoothly too. And then also it can rotate, so you can get some really cool poses with this Titanosaurus. Man, I would have loved to have this as a kid. I would have used this tail to whip dinosaurs, whip the carnivores, you know? That would be really cool. There's a little crease right here. I don't think that moves, no. But the tip right here can move. Hope you guys can get that. So it just basically rotates. You can rotate it however you want, but it's pretty standard. All right, so now we get on to comparisons. Obviously, the first comparison we have to do is a human comparison, because as you can see, this figure is huge. And look at that, that's a small figure right there. We got an Owen right there, and this thing is just ginormous. Holy cow, this thing is huge. But I think it works pretty good. The Titanosaurus in the film looks to be, I think, the biggest sauropod in the franchise, and this toy pretty much represents that very nicely. Now, obviously, the tail needs to be much longer if it was going to be incredibly accurate. The tail of the Titanosaurus in the movie is insanely long. That is just not natural. The tails are super long, definitely longer than the overall size or the length of dinosaur itself, from the head all the way to the rear end. The tail is just it's double that, maybe even triple that. The tail is super long and ends in a really nice whipped curve that just flows in the air, very similar to kind of the Diplodocus tails from Walking with Dinosaurs. They just kind of sway in the air, but I'm sure they can be used as really terrifying weapons against predators. So but compared to a human, this thing is huge. Now let's do some comparisons with some sauropods. All right, so first off, here's the Titanosaurus with the Brachiosaurus, and almost similar in size, but as you can see, the Titanosaurus towers over the Brachiosaurus by a good bit, I would say. So it's huge, as I keep on saying. The back, though, the Brachiosaurus is actually a bit taller than the back of the Titanosaurus. And then obviously the tail is extremely long, much longer than the little one of the Brachiosaurus. But otherwise, they look really good together. Here's the Titanosaurus compared with the Podosaurus, the smallest of the sauropods. As you can see, there's just there's no way this thing is like ever like competing against the Titanosaurus. This thing is obviously dwarfs this poor little Apatosaurus, and kind of shows you how willingly Mattel is able to give us a long tail on a sauropod now, after giving us a really short and pathetic tail on the Apatosaurus. So while this one might be my least favorite of the figures, it's still a cool one, but I feel like at this point you cannot beat the Titanosaurus. Alright, next up we have the Titanosaurus compared with the Diplodocus, which I think the Diplodocus might be roughly the same length if you were to put the Titanosaurus's neck all the way down. But obviously I think the Diplodocus is definitely the longest. Maybe? I actually can't even tell. They both have super long tails. Actually, no. Maybe the Titanosaurus is the longest. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. But other than that, they do look really cool together. I like the colors, how they kind of fit together. But yeah, I think these look really great together. And then next up, we have the Titanosaurus compared with the Mamenchisaurus. Another cool one that I really like. And yeah, these look really great together. Again, the Mamenchisaurus, I think, is pretty dwarfed in terms of length for sure. I think the Titanosaurus is still very much longer than the Mamenchisaurus. And I even thought this guy was actually pretty long when I first got it. But then the Diplodocus came, and I think that one was the longest. But now I actually think the Titanosaurus is actually the longest one now. So, but yeah, these ones look really great together as well. And then last but not least, here is the Titanosaurus compared with the Dreadnoughtus, another favorite of mine. And these look really great together. Obviously, both of these are titanosaurs, the largest group of animals, I think, to ever live on land. And definitely one of my favorite groups of dinosaurs ever, just titanosaurs. Or I guess you could say sauropods in general, but mostly the titanosaurs are some of my favorite groups of animals. And these two are great. It's nice to have two titanosaurs in the franchise. And I thought the Dreadnoughtus was big, but obviously the Titanosaurus easily beats it. You know, obviously in terms of thickness and in height, and obviously in length, that tail is extremely long, even longer than the Dreadnoughtus. So, but yeah, these two look really great together. They dwarf human characters, and that's just so cool. So yeah, the Titanosaurus and the Dreadnoughtus look really great together. Alrighty everyone, so that's about to wrap it up for this review. Overall final thoughts, this figure is phenomenal. I love it so much. I highly recommend it. It is, I think, the best sauropod that Mattel has ever done. And I think the Dreadnoughtus comes in a very close second for me, but I think the first one is definitely the Titanosaurus. Just the huge size of this animal, the length of it, it's awesome. And it captures the look of the new sauropod in Jurassic World Rebirth very nicely, even though there are some things that aren't exactly 100% accurate to what you see in the film. I think it captures the look very nicely, and Mattel did an excellent job. So Mattel, awesome job on this figure. Well done. Paint job is great too. Same with the sculpt and the articulation. And I also forgot, the scan code are actually back on the feet this time for these Rebirth figures. So they're kind of going back to the glory days from Fallen Kingdom all the way through Dino Escape from 2021. So that's really cool to kind of get back into that, kind of going back old school, I guess you could say. No more of those pull-up tab scan codes, which I never really had a problem with, but I think it's really cool how they're back on the feet. But yeah, really looking forward to seeing what this animal does in Rebirth. I know they need DNA from it as the largest land animal, so I'm really interested to see how this animal is going to be portrayed in the film, and I'm really excited. So yeah, overall really great figure, highly recommend it. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed my review for my very first Jurassic World Rebirth figure on the channel. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And I'll see you guys again for the next review.